In the latest kilohertz update, we were introduced to a new plugin called Dynamics, which is similar to the compressor snap-in, which already exists, but it does a few more things. If you've ever talked to someone who's used OTT, you'll know that this plugin, this snap-in, is basically the answer to all of your mixing problems in life ever and ever, amen. Not really, but it is obviously it's being compared to OTT by basically everybody. Uh, it's not just upward compression though either. It does downward expansion, which it's similar to transient shaping. Uh, we'll get into it in this video. So the interface, it's a bit weird looking, but it's pretty easy to get used to, and because you can see it trying to bring down the input to between the thresholds. So these controls in the window aren't really labeled. This number in the top corner is for the upward compression / downward expansion ratio, and the number in the bottom right is for the downward compression ratio. So compression is usually expressed in decibels. No compression is 1:1. But if you start compressing your sound, say 3:1, it's going to take 3 decibels to get 1 actual decibel out of your sound. Same thing on the bottom, pretty much. It's the same thing on the bottom, but once you get into fractions, say like 1:8, then you're into downward expansion, which some people might call gating. It's about the transient shaping. Transient shaping is a different kind of expansion. It's upward expansion. So instead of turning down the signal when it's below the threshold, it turns up the signal when it's above the threshold. It's a little bit different, but the gating is usually a little bit more transparent, and it's not as ouchy most of the time. I'm not a huge fan of the transient shaper snap-in because it's not very reactive. I gotta turn on the poly processing to get it to do much. Same thing with the compressor. I think I've gone over everything in the window except for these 2 lines, which are the thresholds. So you can move the thresholds when you hover over them, and you can also move them both around if you click in between both of them. Below the visual, you have 6 more controls, all pretty standard controls for a compressor. Attack is the amount of time it takes for the dynamic shaping to kick in, and release is the amount of time it takes for the dynamic shaping to stop taking effect. The knee is about smoothing out the compressing or expanding of the signal. So you'll notice when I turn up the knee, this blue secondary line appears, and that's basically a more accurate version of the dynamic shaping. When you turn up the knee, it's not like straight line, straight line, straight line. The compression is applied a bit more gradually and smoothly. It's there if you want it. In gain is the volume adjustment before it's being processed by the dynamic shaper, and the outgain is the volume offset after. And then you can mix in the dry signal with mix knob. It kind of reminds me of Maximus a little bit. If you've ever used Maximus, it's similar. It can do a lot of weird stuff. Yeah. So Maximus is a thing, but this is, I guess, kind of like Faceplant's Maximus OTT. People have already created OTT presets with it. There's a dynamic section in the multipass plugin now, and there's an OTT preset in there. So if you want to try those out, you can do that. I believe that's about it for this snap-in. Yeah, go wild, have fun.